Of all the sounds I ever expected to echo through an office hallway, a slap wasn't one of them. But that's exactly how this story started, with the kind of sharp crack that makes you think for a second someone dropped a tray of glassware. Then you realize, nope, that was a hand, and the person reeling backward is a black woman in a janitor's uniform, cheeks burning, pride stinging even worse. The man who hit her? Derek Williams, white, middle-aged, and filled with that special kind of arrogance you only see in folks who think power is permanent and cruelty is just management. And he wasn't done. Oh no. Supervisor Karen Stevens, with her permanent scowl and bucket of dirty mop water, stepped right in, dumped the whole thing over the woman's head like she was extinguishing a campfire. Maybe this'll teach you some manners, she sneered, like she expected applause. But here's the thing about people who think they've already won. They're always the most surprised when they lose. Because Victoria Sterling, yeah, the janitor, she wasn't some nobody. She wasn't powerless. You ever look at someone and think you have no idea who you're messing with? That was Victoria. And before I get any further, if you believe every person deserves respect no matter what uniform they wear, go ahead and sound off, because this story's about to take you places. See, Victoria Sterling wasn't just another face in a lineup of night shift workers. By 35, she'd clawed her way up from the back of a cramped apartment, building a tech company from nothing but caffeine, stubbornness, and the kind of hustle that makes people doubt you right up until you pass them. When investors slammed doors in her face, she built her own doors, funded herself, and made it impossible for the world to ignore her success. By the time she bought Sterling Solutions, a cleaning company running contracts for skyscrapers across the city, she was worth more than $200 million. But she never forgot what it felt like to be underestimated, never forgot what it felt like to have people look at her and see less than. So when her lawyer, David, slid those acquisition papers across the conference table and told her she now owned 15 office buildings, 300 employees, and $50 million a year in revenue, Victoria was ready. But Amanda, her CFO, didn't look so happy. Morale issues. High turnover. Discrimination complaints. Pinnacle Tower is a mess, she said, and you could see in Victoria's eyes that was all she needed to hear. Let me back up a sec. You ever get so curious about something that you decide to see it up close, no matter what it costs you? That's Victoria. Instead of rolling in with an entourage and announcing herself as the big boss, she went full undercover, took off the expensive jewelry, scrubbed off the designer makeup, pulled on thrift store jeans and old sneakers. She became Vanessa Johnson, single mom, out of work, desperate for any paycheck. Her private investigator built the backstory, and Victoria stepped into a world where her voice, her ideas, her entire self were nothing but background noise to people in charge. The first morning, she walked into the marble and glass monument that was Pinnacle Tower, sat down with HR for the quickest, coldest interview you ever saw. Lisa, the HR rep, barely looked up. Custodial work? Management's demanding. High turnover. She got the job, of course, starting at 6 a.m., reporting directly to, you guessed it, Karen Stevens. If you've ever started a job where the manager makes it clear you're already on thin ice before you clock in, you know the feeling. Karen didn't even try to hide her contempt. Another one looking for easy money, she scoffed, like she was ordering at a drive-thru instead of talking to a real person. But Karen was just the warm-up act. Derek Williams, thick-set, graying, the kind of guy who can fill a hallway with tension just by opening his office door, stepped in, voice loud enough for the building. No special treatment for your kind, he said, and I mean, you don't have to read between the lines too hard, right? Victoria met the other janitors, Maria, a Latina mother doing her best to survive, Robert, a black veteran with dignity worn down by years of this stuff, and Jennifer, a young white college grad who Derek treated like she was his own daughter. It was like watching a play where you already know who the villains are, who the scapegoats are, and who gets to skate by. Every day was an exercise in humiliation. Victoria got the dirtiest jobs, the worst shifts, the kind of work designed to grind you down. Karen's voice was like nails on a chalkboard. This is more your speed, she'd say with that smile that never reached her eyes. Derek's favorite line? Your people are used to this work. It's in your DNA. You know what I mean? There's only so much of that a person can take, and Victoria was counting every slight, every locker search, every random security check that only ever applied to her. Maria looked away. Robert kept his mouth shut. Even Jennifer, who seemed kind enough, said nothing. Fear is a powerful thing, but Victoria didn't break. She documented everything, bided her time, even when Derek escalated to screaming at her for being late, when she'd arrived early, even when Karen shoved her into a closet and locked her in for an hour, even when Derek planted office supplies in her bag and called her a thief, announcing it so the whole floor could hear. She was living the kind of systemic racism people like Derek call just tough management, the kind that gets swept under the rug unless you have the power to flip the rug over. And then, just when you think it can't get worse, it gets violent. Victoria's mopping, slips a little water, and Derek explodes. Clumsy. Just what I expected from someone like you, he shouts, then, out of nowhere, slaps her. Hard. Karen dumps another bucket of dirty water over her. And then, for the grand finale, they call security, say Victoria's dangerous, call the cops, painting her as the threat. You ever watch someone weaponize the system so perfectly you almost have to admire the sheer audacity? Karen calls 911, voice trembling, aggressive black female threatening staff. Police show up, take one look, and the cuffs go on Victoria, not the people screaming at her. It would have worked, too, except David, Victoria's lawyer, arrived with receipts, literally and figuratively. He demanded the officers check the security cameras. Turns out, there's no footage of Victoria attacking anyone, but plenty of Derek and Karen staging the whole thing. Suddenly, the script flips, handcuffs off Victoria, and you can see Derek and Karen go pale. But Victoria's just getting started. She'd caught Derek and Karen stealing company property, boxes of electronics, supplies, the works, loading it into Derek's car. She calls Amanda, moves the meet the new boss, meeting up to the next morning. You want to talk about a walk of power? Victoria steps into that conference room in a suit worth more than Derek's car, David by her side. Derek blusters, calls security, accuses her of trespassing. Victoria smiles, introduces herself as the new owner. The room goes silent. No one's breathing. Derek stammers, tries to play the victim, accuses her of reverse discrimination. Victoria doesn't flinch. No, Derek, this is justice. She lays out the evidence: assault, theft, false police reports, everything, all of it documented. And then the real cops show up, FBI agents, too. Derek and Karen are cuffed for theft, assault, conspiracy, you name it. Karen screaming, Derek sobbing, but it's over. The ones who built their careers on making others feel powerless are suddenly powerless themselves. Victoria turns to her employees, Maria, Robert, Jennifer, and says what they'd been dying to hear. No more racism. No more fear. Everybody here gets respect, fair pay, real benefits. Maria's promoted to supervisor, Robert to assistant manager, Jennifer gets her shot as HR director and funding for her MBA. Raises all around, whistleblower programs, profit sharing, the works. 6 months later, the place is thriving. No more complaints. Productivity's up. People are proud to work there. Meanwhile, Derek and Karen? Prison. Their mugshots became a warning. Treat people like trash, and it'll catch up with you. Victoria's story went national. She testified before Congress, inspired other CEOs to look at their own companies. Maria's daughter got into college, Robert got his dignity back, and Victoria, well, she made sure nobody else in her company would ever have to go through what she did. So, here's the real question. What would you have done if you saw what Victoria saw? Would you have spoken up or kept your head down? Where's the line between surviving and standing up? Tell me in the comments, because this is one story we all need to finish together. If you want more stories that dig deep into justice and power, like and subscribe. Let's keep this conversation going.